Officer Jenna Morales had been with the Crestview Heights Police Department for nearly 7 years. Most of her work focused on community outreach and digital safety education in schools. As part of her daily routine, she scrolled through social media accounts flagged by the department's cyber safety filters, mostly checking in on local minors who had public profiles. It was tedious work, often filled with nothing more than dance challenges, pet videos, and silly school pranks. But that Sunday morning, something felt off. As she scanned through the feed of a local 11-year-old girl named Brielle Thomas, a video posted at 3:14 a.m. caught her attention. The thumbnail was nearly pitch black with a red hue, and the caption read, "This was an accident." Something about it didn't feel like the usual kid's prank or late-night post. Curious and slightly concerned, Jenna clicked on the video. What played on her screen was unlike anything she'd seen during her cyber monitoring work. The footage was shaky and grainy, like it had been filmed on an old phone or in extremely low light. It opened with a view of a dimly lit basement, the camera slowly focusing on a man tied to a chair. He was breathing heavily, his face bloodied, shirt soaked in what appeared to be fresh blood. The walls were made of cinder block, and there were metal tools scattered on a nearby table. A figure stood just outside the frame, holding something long and shiny, possibly a pipe. The man muttered something inaudible before the figure moved forward, and the camera jolted as if someone dropped it. The last frame showed the man slumped over. The video ended there, abruptly, with no context and no visible faces. Jenna's heart pounded. She rewound it, watched again, pausing each frame, trying to identify anything: furniture, voice, clothing. Everything about the clip screamed real. She immediately contacted her supervisor and forwarded the video to the digital forensics team. Within the hour, a formal investigation was opened. Officers were dispatched to the Thomas home to secure all devices, question the family, and determine the origin of the disturbing footage. When they arrived, Janice Thomas answered the door, half awake and clearly unaware of any issue. Brielle was still in her pajamas, confused and scared as officers explained why they were there. Her phone was quickly confiscated. Digital forensic experts began pulling metadata from the video, and it was confirmed the video had been uploaded from Brielle's device. More than that, it had been uploaded using her fingerprint authentication. The case took a chilling turn as officers began digging deeper into the phone's contents. Hidden inside a locked folder, disguised as a calculator app, were several more video files. They were not posted anywhere and had likely remained hidden until now. The police didn't yet know what they would find in those files, but based on the first video, it was clear this wasn't a prank. Something terrible had happened, and an 11-year-old's Instagram account had just opened the door to what would become one of the darkest cases Crestview Heights had ever seen. Brielle Thomas had always been the kind of kid who went unnoticed. In a class full of loud personalities and energetic preteens, she was quiet, kept to herself, and rarely spoke unless called on. Her teachers described her as polite, focused, and unusually mature for her age. She lived with her mother, Janice Thomas, in a modest 2-bedroom house at the end of a cul-de-sac. Her father had never been in the picture, and Janice worked long night shifts at a local distribution center, often leaving Brielle home alone during evening hours. The neighbors knew the Thomases only in passing. They waved when they saw them, but no one really knew what went on behind closed doors. After the police discovered the disturbing video on Brielle's Instagram, their first priority was to assess her immediate safety. A psychologist was brought in to speak with her. Brielle insisted she had no idea how the video got onto her account. She said she had gone to sleep early that night and hadn't touched her phone until the next morning. But her digital history painted a very different picture. Forensic analysts retrieved a complete timeline of her phone usage, and what they found was unsettling. The video had been uploaded manually at 3:14 a.m. There were no signs of hacking or remote access. Even more disturbing was the fingerprint log. Her thumbprint had unlocked the device and was used to post the video. Brielle was the only registered user on the phone. Investigators began searching through her apps, looking for anything unusual. Buried between games and homework reminders was a folder disguised as a basic calculator. When the forensic team bypassed the masking software, they found 6 additional videos, all more disturbing than the last. None of them had been posted online, but they appeared to show scenes filmed in the same basement. In some, faint screams could be heard in the background. In others, the camera lingered on dark corners, heavy breathing audible behind it. One video showed a close-up of a man's hand, bound in zip ties, with blood trickling down his fingers. There was no doubt now, this was far more than just a prank or a misunderstanding. Brielle was placed under protective custody while the investigation continued. Police searched the Thomas home for signs of a crime scene but found nothing obvious. The basement was clean and empty, its concrete floors bare. There were no stains, no tools, no signs of struggle. But one officer noted the faint smell of bleach and spotted fresh spackle in the corners of the walls. Someone had gone to great lengths to erase whatever had taken place there. Meanwhile, Brielle's social media history revealed hundreds of direct messages, many of them sent late at night. The most active thread was with a contact saved only as CV. The messages were fragmented, short, and cryptic. Some included odd instructions, like, "Don't make noise tonight," or "Record everything and keep quiet." The language felt manipulative, and the tone became more threatening over time. Brielle had responded with things like, "Okay," and "I'm scared," and the timestamps aligned closely with the dates of the hidden videos. It became clear to detectives that the quiet, reserved girl they had initially met might not be the one behind the camera, but instead, the one being controlled. The 6 hidden videos found in Brielle's phone became the center of the investigation. Each one was darker than the last, painting a horrifying picture of what had been happening beyond anyone's knowledge. The first video showed only a black screen and the sound of heavy breathing, followed by the dragging of something across the floor. A faint whimper could be heard near the end. The second video was clearer. It opened with a dim light swinging back and forth, revealing part of a cluttered basement. There were tools on a shelf, and something large covered with a tarp in the background. A shoe was briefly visible sticking out from underneath the tarp. There were no faces, no voices, just the eerie hum of a nearby furnace and the occasional creak of footsteps. As the videos progressed, the violence became more evident. In the third video, a man's muffled cries echoed as someone off-camera paced around him. The fourth showed the same man, now tied to a chair, blood dripping from his nose, as a metal object clattered to the floor. The fifth clip, shorter than the others, was shot from behind a door slightly ajar. The camera peeked through the crack, capturing a hand holding a small flashlight and illuminating what looked like restraints bolted into the floor. The final video, dated just 2 days before the Instagram upload, was the most graphic. It showed the man from previous videos, slumped forward in the chair, unmoving. A dark pool had formed beneath him. The camera zoomed in slowly before shutting off. Detectives worked quickly to identify the victim. Using facial recognition software on the clearer frames, they matched the man to Mark Delaney, a 43-year-old handyman who had gone missing 3 weeks earlier. He had no criminal record, no known enemies, and lived alone on the outskirts of town. His van had been found abandoned near a gas station miles away, keys still in the ignition. His disappearance had attracted little attention until now. His name was now at the center of a murder investigation. The connection between Mark Delaney and the Thomas family was initially unclear. There were no known financial links or social ties. But after pulling Janice Thomas's phone and bank records, a small detail emerged. About 5 months earlier, Janice had paid a man named Mark D. in cash for a one-time repair, fixing a broken water heater in the basement. There had been no formal paperwork or invoices, just a brief note in her personal calendar and a text exchange confirming the appointment. It was the only documented interaction between them. The timeline was chilling. Mark Delaney had entered the house once and never left. Police theorized he may have been lured back for a second, undocumented visit. But the real question was who had orchestrated everything. Brielle, just 11 years old, didn't have the means or motive to plan something so calculated. Yet her device held the evidence. Someone else had used her to document the crime, someone who wanted the videos hidden but accessible, and someone who, up until now, had managed to stay completely in the shadows. As the investigation intensified, police returned to the Thomas home for a second, more thorough search. This time, they brought in specialized units trained to detect hidden spaces, recent construction, and blood traces, even after heavy cleaning. The basement, although spotless, still felt wrong. The freshly painted walls, the unusually smooth floor in certain patches, and the faint chemical smell hinted at a deeper secret. One officer noticed a narrow crack in the corner of the garage floor that didn't align with the original foundation. It led them to a wall that sounded hollow when tapped. Behind it, Hidden behind a stack of old paint cans and unused storage bins was a false wall. When the officers removed the panel, they found a dark, narrow hallway no more than 3 feet wide. At the end of it was a heavy door that had been reinforced from the inside. It took them nearly 20 minutes to pry it open. What they found inside was horrifying. The room was wrapped in thick black plastic sheeting, the kind used for weatherproofing or sound dampening. Chains hung from hooks in the ceiling. In one corner stood a rusted metal chair, the same one seen in the videos. The concrete floor beneath it was stained with a reddish hue, despite clear attempts to clean or repaint it. A bucket with used rags sat nearby. The entire space had the feel of a makeshift torture chamber, designed not for storage or secrecy, but control. Forensic teams collected samples and began reconstructing the room based on video footage. Measurements matched the angles seen in Brielle's recordings. Even the light fixture swinging in one of the earlier clips was there, still hanging loosely from the ceiling. It became painfully clear that the videos had not been staged or filmed somewhere else. Everything had happened right there, inside the Thomas home. Attention now turned to how Brielle, or anyone, could have been involved in such a sophisticated setup. The design and construction of the false wall and hidden room required time, planning, and strength. This was not the work of a child. Then came the breakthrough. Surveillance footage from a neighbor's backyard camera captured a man entering the Thomas garage late at night over several separate occasions. The man did not match Janice's build and was clearly not a repairman or delivery person. He entered with a key and moved with familiarity. Using enhanced footage and a partial license plate caught during one visit, police identified the man as Cody Vance, Janice's ex-boyfriend. He had a criminal record spanning multiple states, burglary, assault, and one dismissed case involving unlawful confinement. Neighbors recalled seeing him around months ago but assumed he had moved away. Janice claimed she had no idea Cody had returned. She told investigators she hadn't spoken to him in over 4 months and had changed the locks after he left. But Cody had once lived in that house, and his old key still worked on the garage door. As detectives dug deeper, they found more chilling evidence. Messages exchanged between Brielle and a user believed to be Cody, sent through a hidden messaging app. The tone of the texts suggested manipulation, threats, and control. Whoever had turned Brielle's phone into a camera had also turned her into a silent witness. Cody Vance was arrested without incident just 3 days after police uncovered the hidden room. He had been staying in a rented trailer on the outskirts of town, using a fake name and paying in cash. Inside his trailer, investigators found multiple phones, hard drives, and a handwritten notebook containing a detailed list of dates, names, and instructions. Among the entries were notes referencing B and recording schedule, further linking him to the manipulation of Brielle Thomas. The evidence was overwhelming. But what investigators didn't expect was the way the truth unraveled once Cody was brought in for questioning. At first, he denied everything. He claimed he hadn't seen Brielle or Janice in months and had nothing to do with the videos. But under pressure, his story cracked. Faced with digital proof, footage, and DNA evidence from the hidden room, Cody confessed, though his version of the events was deeply unsettling. He claimed that he had been training Brielle, calling her his project, and that the videos were part of a sick experiment. He said he never intended to kill Mark Delaney, only to scare him. His words were cold, detached, and calculated. He showed no remorse. According to Cody, he began grooming Brielle months earlier, messaging her through gaming apps and encrypted platforms while her mother was at work. He told her he was watching out for her, that her mother didn't care about her, and that she was special, smart enough to help him with important work. He convinced her to keep secrets, to record things for him, to follow his instructions exactly. Brielle, only 11, didn't fully understand what she was doing. She thought she was helping someone she trusted. She was told that if she disobeyed, her mother would be hurt. The emotional manipulation was precise and relentless. Janice Thomas was devastated when she learned the extent of Cody's influence. She hadn't known he had re-entered their lives. The few times she had been home, she had seen no signs. Cody always entered through the garage, stayed only when the house was empty, and erased all physical traces of his presence. He operated in silence, using Brielle as a pawn to carry out his plans. The real horror lay in how completely invisible he had made himself while orchestrating everything. Brielle was placed into the custody of Child Protective Services, and her name was removed from all public reports. Authorities acknowledged she was a victim, not a perpetrator. The videos, though horrifying, were ultimately what saved her. By posting the final clip to her Instagram account, she had broken Cody's control, whether she intended to or not. Her simple caption, "This was an accident," was her cry for help. The story sent shockwaves through the nation, sparking debates about online safety, child exploitation, and the dark corners of social media. Experts weighed in on how easily predators can manipulate vulnerable minds, and how little supervision children often have over digital spaces. The case was closed with Cody Vance sentenced to life without parole, but the trauma lingered. For Brielle, the road to recovery would be long, but she had survived something most couldn't imagine. And in the end, her bravery, intentional or not, stopped a predator in his tracks.